Shanghai, 1900. A British doctor sees the first X-ray ever taken of a bound foot. And he vomits right there in his clinic. The image is a nightmare. Every bone, shattered. The four smallest toes, snapped and folded completely backward, pressed flat against the sole. The arch, crushed into a brutal, 90-degree angle. The entire foot measures just 3 inches. But it wasn't the skeletal wreckage that truly broke him. It was what the woman said next. She told him, calmly, that her own mother did this to her. On purpose. When she was just 6 years old. What if I told you this wasn't an isolated horror story? What if I told you that across 3 continents, over 1,000 years, entire civilizations turned women's bodies into living sculptures? And the process killed thousands? Today, we are exposing 3 beauty rituals so extreme, they defy belief. Number 1, a practice that involved deliberately breaking the bones of young girls. And it was mothers, not men, who did the breaking. Number 2, a form of living art so extreme, that women physically could not survive without it. Remove it, and they would die within hours. And number 3, is still happening right now, in 2025, with government officials looking the other way. Don't click away. Because what I'm about to show you in number 3 was still openly practiced in the 1990s, and historians have actively tried to erase it from the textbooks. Hit subscribe, because this story gets so much darker. Here's what they don't teach you in history class. Between the 10th century and this very moment, 3 separate cultures, on 3 different continents, independently came to the same horrifying conclusion. A woman's body was a canvas. Not for temporary decoration, not for paint or jewelry. But for permanent, irreversible mutilation. A transformation into what society called beautiful. And here's the part that will make your skin crawl. These weren't fringe cults. These were mainstream practices. In China, foot binding saw 80% participation in some provinces. We are talking about 100 million women over a millennium. In East Africa, certain regions saw 90% compliance. In Myanmar, entire tribes made it mandatory. These practices spanned empires. They survived wars, famines, and foreign invasions. Governments tried to ban them. And failed. Repeatedly. But by the end of this, you'll understand why some historians tried to bury this story. Because the answer to one simple question exposes an uncomfortable truth about human nature. Who do you think enforced these traditions? Who held the girls down? Who wielded the knives and the binding cloths? If you said men, you are wrong. In all 3 cultures, women policed these practices harder than men ever did. Mothers, grandmothers, aunts. They were the enforcers. The question that kept me up at night. Why? Why would women do this to each other? Stick around, because I am going to answer that. But first, you need to see what they actually did. Let's start with the practice that lasted for exactly 1,000 years. Close your eyes. Picture this. You're a 6-year-old girl in 15th century China. You wake up, and your mother is smiling at you. It's a special day. She's holding a basin of warm, herb-scented water and a 10-foot-long strip of pristine white cloth. But this is not a celebration. Today is the day she is going to break your feet. This is foot binding. And it is exactly what it sounds like. Your mother soaks your small feet. Not for comfort. The herbs are to soften the skin and ligaments. So they won't tear as easily when she begins. Then, she takes your toes. All 4 small ones. She folds them backward. And you hear the sickening snap as they press flat against the sole of your foot. Then comes the cloth. She wraps it. So tight, the blood stops. She starts at the mangled toes, loops around the heel, and pulls. Yanking your heel and your broken toes together, crushing the arch of your foot. 10 feet of cloth, wrapped with a brutal, practiced precision. When she is done, you cannot move a single toe. But here's what the textbooks leave out. The true, grinding horror. This was not a one-time event. Every 2 days, your mother unwraps the bindings. The cloth is now soaked with blood and pus. Your toenails, with nowhere else to go, begin growing into your raw, inflamed flesh. Sometimes, the smaller toes rot. The flesh turns black, necrotic, and simply falls off. And she wraps it all again. Tighter. A 17th century manual, Records of Gathered Refinements, was explicit: begin before age 6, or the bones will harden and cannot be shaped. Tighten the bindings every 3 days. If the child can still flex her toes, You have failed. This continues for a minimum of 2 years. Your arch is rebroken every few weeks as you grow, forcing it into that signature lotus shape. The goal? A perfect, 3-inch foot. The golden lotus. Your ticket to being marriageable. Could you walk? Barely. Women with bound feet could not travel more than a mile without crippling pain. Their entire body weight balanced on a shattered arch. A heel and a single, lonely big toe. Imagine walking on a permanently broken foot. For 70 years. But here is the number that should haunt you. The death rate. 10%. 1 in 10 little girls died during the binding process. From infection. Sepsis. Gangrene creeping up the leg. 1 in 10. Dead. So the other 9 could be considered beautiful. And the mothers knew this. They had seen sisters, neighbors' daughters, die. And they did it anyway. By the time foot binding was officially banned in 1912, it had crippled over 100 million women. The last factory making foot-binding shoes didn't close its doors until 1999. Think that's the worst of it? Don't leave yet. Because what I'm about to show you next makes foot-binding look almost merciful. At least those women could take the bindings off at night. The next culture created a modification so permanent, so physically inescapable, that removing it meant a slow, agonizing death by suffocation. And it is still happening today. If you have $20, you can fly to Thailand right now. For $1, you can take a selfie with a woman trapped in this nightmare. Her name is Mutter. She is 32 years old. She wears 25 pounds of brass coils stacked around her neck, making it appear 10 inches longer than yours. The tour guides will tell you a beautiful lie. They'll say her neck has been stretched since childhood. It's tradition. It's art. Here is the brutal truth they don't tell you. If you remove those coils, she will suffocate and die within hours. Want to know why? Because her neck isn't stretched at all. This is the Kyon neck coiling tradition from Myanmar, and it's built on a grotesque, physiological illusion. Those brass coils do not elongate the neck. They crush the collarbones. They push down the upper ribs, compressing them by up to 2 inches. The sheer weight of the metal slowly, inexorably, deforms the shoulder girdle downward, creating the illusion of a swan-like neck. And the process starts at 5 years old. You are 5. An elder woman slides the first brass coil over your head. It weighs a pound. It's tight, uncomfortable, but tolerable. Every year, on your birthday, they add another. And another. By 15, you are carrying 20 to 25 pounds of brass around your neck. 24 hours a day. 7 days a week. You sleep in it. You eat in it. You never, ever take it off. And inside your body, a silent atrophy begins. Your neck and shoulder muscles, no longer needed to support your head, weaken and waste away. Your vertebrae shift under the constant pressure. After a decade, your own muscles are so weak they cannot support the weight of your skull. A 1935 British colonial report documented a chilling humanitarian experiment. They removed the coils from several women. 3 of them died within 24 hours. Their atrophied necks collapsed. They suffocated as their own airways closed. So when tourists pay the dollar for a photo with Mutter, they aren't celebrating culture. They are funding a human zoo. These women are trapped in a vicious cycle. Remove the coils, and they die. Keep them on, and they remain prisoners in a village, performing their own oppression for Instagram likes. The governments of Myanmar and Thailand know. And they do nothing, because the spectacle draws tourism revenue. But the real question is this: why do new girls still volunteer? I asked Mutter through a translator. Her answer was a gut punch. If I don't wear the coils, no man from my tribe will marry me. I will have no future. I will starve. Marriage or death. That is the choice. And mothers look into the eyes of their 5-year-old daughters. And choose the coils. At least these women can still breathe on their own. At least they can eat without assistance. The next practice makes both of these look gentle. Because the World Health Organization estimates that 44 million girls under the age of 14 are living with its consequences right now. And in some regions, 1 in 3 dies from it. I need you to stay with me on this one. Because it gets brutal. You're 8 years old. You wake up to the sound of elder women gathering outside your home. You don't know why, but your mother is crying. They take you to a hut. 4 women hold you down. Your arms. Your legs. You are screaming. And then you see it. A razor blade. This is female genital mutilation. Specifically, The most extreme form, infibulation. And what happens in this hut will define the rest of your life. Here is the reality. With no anesthesia, an elder woman, often your own grandmother or aunt, uses that blade to cut away your external genital tissue. Then, using acacia thorns as needles and thread made from animal sinew, she stitches you nearly shut. She leaves an opening the size of a matchstick. That is it. The World Health Organization confirms it. 200 million women alive today have undergone this. 44 million of them are girls under 14. In regions of Sudan and Somalia where this extreme form is practiced, 1 in 3 girls dies from hemorrhage or infection within a week. 1 in 3. But if you survive, this is your life now. Urination takes 15 minutes because of the tiny opening. Menstruation is agony, as blood backs up inside. Chronic infections are your constant reality. Scar tissue forms, hardens. Then your wedding night comes. Your husband uses a knife to cut you open. No hospital. No anesthesia. Just him and a blade. If you survive childbirth, and many do not, because the scarred tissue cannot stretch, they often sew you shut again afterward. To restore you. You are cut open and sewn shut. Multiple times across your lifetime. A survivor named Ifra Ahmed testified before the UN, "I was 10. I remember the pain was so severe I lost consciousness. I woke up 3 days later, bleeding. My sister died from the same procedure when she was 9. Here is the part that broke me during my research. When I looked at who performs these procedures, 80% are women. Grandmothers. Traditional birth attendants. Mothers who had it done to them. Ifra Ahmed said her own grandmother held her down while her aunt cut her. And this brings us back to the question I promised I would answer. The one that haunts this entire, dark history. Why? Why would women do this to each other? I know this is heavy. I know you might be feeling sick. But if you're still watching, you understand why we can't forget these stories. Before I give you the answer, and it will reframe everything you've just seen, hit that subscribe button. Next week, I'm revealing a beauty practice still legal in the West, one you might be doing right now, with shocking long-term health consequences. Now, let's talk about why women became the enforcers. 3 cultures. 3 continents. 3 horrifying practices. And in all 3, women weren't just victims of a system. They were the architects of its enforcement. Here is the truth historians tried to bury. In 12th century China, the most detailed foot-binding manuals were written by women, for women. In Khian culture, the elder women hold the sole authority to decide which girls receive the coils. Men have no say. And in communities practicing FGM, when governments ban it, women form secret societies to perform it underground. Why? The answer is both simple and devastating. In these societies, marriage was survival. Not love. Not partnership. Literal, physical survival. An unbound Chinese woman was unmarriageable. She couldn't inherit property. She was relegated to begging or prostitution. A Khian girl without coils was considered ugly, an outcast. Expelled from the tribe with nowhere to go. An uncut African girl was labeled unclean. No man would marry her. She would have no protection, no resources, no children to care for her in old age. So when a mother broke her daughter's feet, in her mind, she wasn't being cruel. She was securing her daughter's future. She was showing love in the only way the system allowed. When a grandmother sewed her granddaughter shut, she wasn't being sadistic. She was ensuring that girl could eat, could survive. The cruelty wasn't individual. It was systemic. And this is why laws alone failed. China tried to ban foot-binding in 1645. It failed. They tried again in 1902. Failed. They finally succeeded in 1912, but the last binding shoe factory didn't close until 1999. That's 354 years of failed bans. Myanmar passed laws against neck coiling in 1962. The practice continues today. 28 African countries have banned FGM. Yet in 2023, rates increased by 12% in Indonesia. Underground practitioners now charge triple because of the risk. So how does change actually happen? Not through laws. Not through outside force. It happens from within. It starts with the survivors. Real change happens when the enforcers become the liberators. It happened with Ifra Ahmed, the FGM survivor. She didn't return to Somalia to lecture or shame. She gathered the elder women, the cutters, and asked them one devastating question: Would you want your granddaughter to suffer what you suffered? Every single one of them said no. In China, a woman named Xu Jin started the Natural Foot Society in 1904. She was executed for it in 1907. But her sacrifice ignited a fire. Within 5 years, foot binding rates plummeted from 80% to 40%. In Kenya in 2016, the Maasai community abandoned FGM when 1,500 elder women gathered and publicly declared an end to the practice. But here is what keeps me awake at night. It took 1,000 years to end foot binding. We are only a century into its official end, and some communities still bind in secret. Neck coiling has persisted for 600 years. FGM has existed for over 2,000. These practices don't die easily. Because they are not held in place by men with weapons. They are held in place by mothers who genuinely believe they are protecting their daughters. That is the most heartbreaking truth of all. Let's be clear about the scale of the devastation. Foot binding, 100 million women over 1,000 years. Millions dead from infection. Neck coiling, tens of thousands of women over 600 years. Women who were physically chained to their tradition. FGM, 200 million living survivors. 44 million girls under the age of 14 living with it right now, today, as you watch this. The combined death toll runs into the millions. The suffering is incalculable. And before you think, thank God that's ancient history, remember, in 2023, FGM rates increased. You can still buy a ticket to see Kian women in human zoos. In rural China, researchers found villages secretly practicing foot binding as recently as 2014. We like to believe progress is linear. That humanity marches inevitably toward enlightenment. But a 1,000-year-old practice died less than a century ago. Some never died at all. So I leave you with this question, and I want you to really think about it in the comments. Which practice shocked you the most? The 1,000-year bone breaking? The suffocation trap disguised as jewelry? Or the ritual that's still claiming children's lives today? Fair warning, this comment section is about to get intense. And if you think this is as dark as beauty standards get, you're wrong. Next week, I'm exposing beauty practices that are completely legal in Western countries right now. You're probably doing one of them. And doctors are starting to speak out about the long-term damage. Spoiler, one of them has a mortality rate higher than foot binding. And it's performed 300,000 times per year in the United States alone. Hit that subscribe button. Because the horrors of beauty culture didn't end in ancient history.